Okay, welcome back once again. So, step 17, we are moving on to bag C, and straight away we need to start doing some work on this bathtub chassis. They are telling us to cut a whole bunch of bits of foam tape to stick into this tub chassis to basically just to pack out the slot for the battery, so that it can accept the standard 6-cell NIMI battery instead of the 7-cell 8.4 pack. We're not going to do any of that, at least not yet. Like I keep saying, this car isn't going to be run very much at all. But when we do run it, I would like the experience of running the Bigwig with the 8.4 volt motor. I know the original one came out with the gold motor, the Tamiya gold motor back in the day. Zach might know off the top of his head. Do you remember what turn the gold motor was?
23 or 21 rings a bell.
Yeah, okay, because this GT tuned motor is a 23 turn motor. So if this is about the same power as the original Tamiya gold motor, then I would like to run it just to get the experience of it with the 8.4 volt battery. So I'm going to leave all the padding out for now, and probably going to order an 8.4 volt 7-cell, and we'll go from there. But something else I want to do with this chassis, see, the next step after all that foam tape is, first of all, building up our steering servo and mounting it in the chassis, and then onto the electrics. We're not mounting electrics yet, speed controller and stuff like that. We are mounting a servo. We went and took another car apart and stole another steering servo. We really do need to buy another pack of servos so that we can put all these cars back together. But before we do all of that, because Tamiya has included these valve covers here in the shape of a V8 kind of, valve covers of a V8 engine. Although the angle of them, it looks more like a Y block, like an old Ford Y block, but they didn't have spark plug leads going into the top of the rocket cover, so this might become some kind of a European V8. I don't know. But we do want to throw some detail at this. So first of all, I'm going to, because all these ribs here and these holes for the plug leads are raised, I'm just going to run over it with this liquid chrome pen. And then I have this, what's supposed to be scale spark plug lead that came out of the Palmer 110 Hemi kit. Obviously not this one, but I did have another kit there that's sort of half built. So we are going to run our plug leads out of the rocket covers and sort of bunch them together. Now, without finishing the model completely, I really don't know where I can run all these leads to make it look like they're actually going somewhere, like to a distributor. So for now, I'm going to run them all, tie them all together with some small bits of heat shrink tubing, and probably just gather them all up together in the center here and just have them poking out the front, because I think the body and the roll cage is probably going to cover that part of it anyway. So that's our plan for that. But first of all, I just want to take the chrome pen. We need to shake it up a bit. So I'm just don't know if I'm going to be able to do this and have it on camera as well, because my eyesight's not that good. And as you can probably hear, I'm because of this flu or cold or whatever it is I have, I'm actually starting to lose my voice. So we'll battle on and see how we go. Haven't quite lost my voice completely, but it is getting a little bit croaky, so I'm really just running over all those raised sections of this rocker cover. But you can see that just really sort of brings it out. Instead of just being all black and empty with these 4 empty holes in there. I'm just going to do this other one. Now we are going to have to leave this to dry. So that'll do for that. I think you probably agree, it really brings out those rocker covers. Kind of gives it a 302 Ford Boss kind of look about it. Obviously, without the plug leads going in the center of the rocker covers there. We're going to let that sit and dry, and then we're going to start running some plug leads. I think this kit really deserves, since it's going to be a shell queen anyway, and it's got this beautiful GT tune motor, special motor for it. I think it deserves just a little bit of extra detail on it. Okay, so while we're waiting for that silver to dry off, we can start building up our servo and probably even mount the servo. By the time we get through that paint might be dry and we might be able to install our spark plug wires. We might even get this steering rack together in this video as well. So we have our trusty servo tester. This did come out of the car that was running, so it should be centered, but we're just going to double check it. Let's turn that on. We got a manual, just make sure it's still working. That's neutral. Turn that off. Unplug, and that can go away. So now we can start building up our servo. So this is different to what I'm used to, but it's basically the same. This pinion gear here just replaces your stock servo arm. That's the only difference. So we still have our actual drive gear. The S4 or S7 depends on which servo you're using. It'll be printed either Tamiya, Futaba, or Sanwa ACOMs, I think, which I've never ever used the Sanwa ACOMs pieces, so you can imagine I have a whole bunch of these to suit Sanwa servos, which I'm probably never going to use. So if you need some, hit me up. I've got shitloads of them. So we need to mount it so that drive kind of spigot thing is facing up, and our servo drive is on the right hand side as you're looking at it. Then our servo saver spring, it's essentially all it is. It's just a spring. And then our servo arm itself, which is obviously a pinion gear and not your usual generic servo arm. So it's telling us to use whatever screws suit your servo. So Zach's given me a whatever screw that is, which we're not going to need. So you can have that back, because I'm using a 3x10 machine screw. Now this just going to pull all that back off again, because looking at how the servo actually goes into the car, it looks like it'll be a bit of a job to get it back out if you need to. So I don't think we're ever going to take the servo out of this car. So I'm actually going to put some thread lock into the servo out drive, because I have had the screws come out of these particular servos before. So just as a precaution, I'll put a bit of thread lock into that out drive, we can push our actual drive back on, and that's actually a really nice tight fit on there too, and very little movement in that whole setup compared to some of the other setups we've built. In particular, the the grasshopper, which, as you know, we're building up for the speedrun challenge this year from Poor Boys. There is so much slop in that Servo Saver setup that, yeah, it's just not funny. Anyway, it's not about the grasshopper in this video. Okay, so I have made a bit of a mistake there. Let me just take that screw back out. Okay, so if you were watching closely, you would have seen that I missed this S1 part. This plastic washer or bush or whatever you want to call it. There's actually a serrated washer on this screw that came off the car that we stole it from. Just going to take that off, and there should still be plenty of thread lock in there. So we're just going to screw it back together with this plastic washer or spacer or whatever you want to call it. So that is our Servo Saver and pinion for the steering installed. Now, if you are a beginner or novice watching this video, first of all, I wouldn't recommend a Bigwig for a first time build, but that doesn't mean you're going to have trouble building it. All you need to do is read the instructions properly. Now, it's giving you 4 different choices of screws that you can use. So if you actually read through it all, it's basically telling you to use whatever screws are suitable for the servo that you are using. So if I have another servo here somewhere, I did have the other day, right there next behind the battery. So if you have a servo with a plastic outdrive, this is a Futaba, that is going to use a different screw to this servo, which has a metal outdrive. This metal outdrive accepts a M3 machine thread screw. This servo here, although there appears to be a machine thread screw in there, there shouldn't be, but that should accept a smaller self-tapping screw. So that's why they give you 4 different screws when you only need to use 1 screw. Right, so that's our Servo Saver and pinion gear hooked up on our servo. Now we need to mount the servo into the chassis using these servo posts, which upon inspection they don't actually screw into the chassis itself. To do that, we need the chassis. Now, off camera, I finished off our detail on the motor. I did it off camera because it was actually a little bit fiddly. Pretty much all I did was took this, where did that go? The plug wire out of the spark plug wire out of the old Palmer Hemi, and pretty much just with four pieces just fed them through, tied them together with some heat shrink tube, and they just tucked in down there. And I have tried it with the a rough fit with the body and the canopy, and everything fits together nice. And I think it just adds that little bit of extra detail. So we have our chassis, and you can probably hear my voice is getting worse. So if it gets any worse than it is, any worse than it is, we might have to finish this video with subtitles. So these posts here, they do go on a specific way. You just have to, if you're really worried about getting them mixed up, there's a B7 and a B1. Just do one at a time. So just cut the B7 off and attach it on the correct side, and then do the other one. But you really only have to follow what they look like on the drawing, and you'll be fine. So it's calling for an M3 machine screw through the bottom hole of this servo, and then through the slotted hole, and then your M3 flange nut. Now I'm going to need a couple of hands to do this. That's on there loose because it's another important reason why you need to read everything in the instruction manual. So I'll just bring it up and show you. There's two things actually you got to watch out for in this step. It's saying here, attach with servo center line in position shown. So it's got your center line from the actual outdrive up and down, but the lateral line here is on those mounting poles. You have this line here molded into it, and that's what it's telling you to line up the center line with. And the center line on these servos are actually that little gusset there. So if we get the center of that gusset lined up with the line on that piece, just like that, and again, being a flange nut, it's going to grip itself onto the plastic. So we can just tighten that up, double check it. That's where it needs to be. We're just going to do the same with the other one. So there we have both of our servo posts attached and lined up in the center. Okay, so we've just noticed those 3x10 machine screws, there's very little thread engaging in that nut. That's what the kit says to use. For my mind, that's just not enough engagement with the nut. You always want your thread to be at least flush with the end of the nut or a little bit sticking through where possible. Just because I have a whole bunch of spare screws, I'm actually going to change them out for a 3x12. You won't have to do this. Oh, Hong Kong's getting up over Sweden. Yeah, you won't have to do this, but this is just going to satisfy my little bit of a OCD thing. But if you are building a Bigwig and you've never taken any notice of the screws for those servo posts, just have a look when you do. There's very little thread sticking out there, so if you do have some longer screws, I reckon use them. Hong Kong got up. While we're building this car and shooting this video, we're actually watching the well-covered darts on the computer. You can't see it, we got the sound turned down, obviously, for obvious reasons. So we just had Hong Kong get up over Sweden. Sweden, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sweden.
Yeah, we got Republic of Ireland and Switzerland playing, so we're just kind of talking as I'm swapping these screws out. It's not quite centre. Okay, so that's all done now. You can see we actually got positive engagement with that thread now using that 3x12 machine screw. Hopefully that's not going to come back to bite us in the bum later on, which I don't think it should. So I was saying there was two things you got to look out for. One is lining up that center line, obviously, and we've done that. The other two is this part here, the holder for your plastic aerial tube. Your BC12, it's got like a star next to it. Your BC1 screw has a star next to it. Now down here it actually says, when using receivers with external antenna cable. So the receiver we'll be using will have an external antenna cable, but the Dumbo ones are only about this long. So it's really pointless using these things anyway. I usually just curl it up inside the car somewhere out of the way, independent of all the other wires, and just tape it up. So we're not using that aluminium part, but what we will do once the car's finished is use the metal aerials that come with it, and both of them, because it gives it that period correct. Look, I think just like the frog, we did the same with that. We're going to do the same with the hot shot. I'm not going to have any metal aerials left, but I think you can do the same with the boomerang and say like the fox and stuff like that. So let's get the servo in. This video is probably running way too long at the moment, so we might just get this servo in, and we'll come back in the next video and do this steering. But we'll see how we go. So this servo doesn't actually screw down into the chassis. We need this part here, which looks like it either sits in or clips in. I know it screws in, but yeah, we have our sponge tape cut to size up here. Ooh, Republic of Ireland's got up. 1 leg to go, and they've got it. So a bit of sponge tape on there. Now it's telling us to grease up the mating surfaces of this part, and it's also saying to grease up this portion here of the steering pinion. So we'll do that. So it's saying to grease that portion and the front edge of that gear, and also the mating flange, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It might be for dirt and dust ingress. Maybe. Here we go. Republic of Ireland got up. Okay, so that's all that is now. Just a matter of dropping that into the chassis. Now that I've got grease everywhere. The portion there that we just greased up sits into this semicircle part here. Now I can see why they're telling you to grease it up. It's just going to run in that part, and the front of that looks like it's pretty much, well, it's not hard up on the front there, but it's pretty close. So this should, okay, that looks like it sits down there like that, and 2 3x10 self-tapping screws. It is an interesting servo mounting system. Oh, it's not Hyrex, fucking Super Chin. So that is your servo. It's your servo mounted. I know this plate here screws down over the top with some double-sided tape, but man, come on. Really? Okay. We also have a body post here too. So we have that. A 3mm washer. I'm actually going to put some grease into that hole, because that is a long thread on that screw. And it goes into this center hole in the chassis here. You can just get it started by hand. Now, you will probably have to use your box wrench, because I think it's the other one actually. That was the thumbnail. Yeah, okay. The thumbnail looked like they were having a blue, Rocky and Super Chin. Rocky just went up and said, "Yeah, come on." But he's still staring at him. It's fucking weird. Okay, so yeah, you can use your Tamiya tools to screw that in, but you're only just getting engagement on that nut. Don't know if you can see it. But with your box wrench, you can get it all the way on there, so you're not slipping and sliding around. And again, read the book. It says note direction, so it's saying the pinhole needs to go crossways like this. So try not to over tighten the screw when you're lining up the cross hole there. Try not to over tighten it. If it is getting too tight and it's not close yet, back it off and line it up that way, because you really don't want to strip that thread out. And my voice is going. Okay, so step 20, we need to mount the mount plate for the speed controller, which we're not fitting yet. Simply because I haven't stolen one out of another car yet. This is a really interesting setup. So, yeah, it's saying a piece of double-sided tape on the top of the servo, then another one on top of the plate for the ESC, so we won't need that yet. So, your guess is as good as mine as to how big it needs to be, because it doesn't actually tell you how big it needs to be. But you've got that entire area under there. So I'm going to, since this looks like the only mechanical mounting for the servo, I'm going to use a big piece of tape, which is a pity because I like the look of these servos. They're pretty in pink. Well, there's nothing wrong with pink. It's actually not pink for you manly men out there. It's aggressive salmon. Okay, 2 more 3x10 screws, and very carefully line up your screw holes so as not to engage the double-sided tape first and be offline. So that's pushed down there. Now I just need to put my screws in. Hopefully I'll line those holes up properly. And again, you might need your smaller JIS screwdriver. I should have put grease in those holes, but I forgot. Okay, so I think I'll just point out, you will get your larger JIS screwdriver in there, but it is very, very tight fit, and it actually pushes that plastic out a little bit. So if you're going to do that, please use caution. So that is our electronics plate mounted with the servo mounted. It is actually quite solid in there with that double-sided tape. And I do love all these yellow highlights. The plug wires aren't quite the same yellow as the plastic parts, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. So I think we're going to leave that video there. But to give you a little bit of a tease, we're just going to mock up the front and rear ends. It's getting very, very close now. So thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Have a great day, and we'll see you when we get the steering sorted out.